Okay, I think it's live. Oh, okay, so hello everybody. Um, Yesterday left off. Let's see. Okay, we were working on the planting. The plan was to select one type of plant and use the buy button to place it in the. So I was planning to do some tutorial work today to understand screen projection to world projections. Didn't have time to do that last night, so I figured it out. So let's do that together. So GD script screen position scope. How to turn mouse coordinates? It's a better question. And we were looking camera methods. This is what we tried to use, and I was stuck with the meaning of this Z depth. Look at the camera method or inward from the world's point to screen. Yeah, I don't think we have a problem with the position. We could always somehow. It's Z depth. Let's try that again because we had somewhat satisfactory. I gave an arbitrary value to every time I changed this value, answer was the vector was different. Let's see. I'm pointing here. I think I'm going to try to this page. So my target is basically the base of the tree, which I know in the game world is 000. Tree base. Let me double check that. Our camera angle. This tree is where the wheelbarrow sitting. Base of this tree. I'll call it tree. And I'm at the base of the tree. We'll use -2. Unless it's the first decimal, I don't think I. So the second value 2.80 size enough. The Z value is, there is some consistency, but I'm also going to do. Still don't know why we have log here. I'm work, but for some reason sometimes these buttons I'm suspect covered by other con. I'm going to pause the game using spacebar, and the sun is always moving. So the cursor right now, my cursor is not that precise, but it's precise enough that the x and the y, x and the z values are always similar. So that makes sense. At least, um, because I know this is the center. X and z values being very similar makes sense. The y value being in the positive is different than the x and z. Is absolutely. When I move here, I think restriction. Then I'm actually going up in the direction. Values are here it's minus 0, and here. Another thing I'm noticing is, so here is minus 2. When I go 1 unit, it's almost moving 3/4, 0.75. When I go one more, another 0.75. If I go one more 0.5, it'll plus 0.25. So either my units are exactly what I was doing some subdivision. Exactly. Because I think I was some kind of tricky scale. I think the best way to know this is to move this tree. Yeah, let's have few more trees here that we know for sure they are in incremental x and y, sorry, x and z coordinates. Y is up. Here's a tree. This is I think x4. And let's have another tree. This one. Zero. Okay, let's start with these two. Now, actually, let's set the time to sometime in the so we can see the time. But sometime in Close the game. Here's the base. -2, 2, 88. So this is the tree. We have another tree. Normally 4 and does that. Interestingly enough, X and Z values. X is 0.95. Y is 4. Z is this guy 0.4. That one is -3, 4, 20, and then so that at least there's consistency. These two trees are basically rotated around this y-axis. There's the y-axis going up. So along that axis, this is rotated 90 degrees. So 4, 0, 0 becomes 0, 0, 4. Naturally, the x and z values, when we do the projection, they are also swapped. That's actually okay. I still don't know why the projection don't quite reflect the world. Why does it it's being 10? Let's try to get these values when this is 5. First test was done with the z value 10. Second test is done 5. 3, 0, 0, 0. And it's 4.56, and that's actually more or less the same. So we have x and z having pretty much the same values. Difference, minor difference, sense it's not being precise. So we'll consider them the same. When we move to the 400 coordinates, projection such that it's 154, 7, it's 5, 5. I bet the x and z values will swap again. This condition minus 5, 5. Semicolon C. So y is 883. That is also consistent too with previous. And the z value is x value from before. So I have to. So this is a short answer. Nevertheless, this is something that this is essentially what we are trying from our eye, which actually equals coordinates. My camera is orienting for all sorts of. Project. Okay, this function we used it yesterday. It makes sense, but this diagram here I use. It is essentially giving you the origin. This is where the race starts. So it's the origin of the race, and the normal in 3D context is the normal angle. Because in an orthogonal camera projection, it is going to be perpendicular orthogonal to this plane. But in its situation, present, it's actually, let's say your screen coordinates will never correspond to world coordinates. So depending on distance here, orthogonal, I more or less. Nevertheless, and then there's this other calculation we are adding the ray normal. We multiply the ray normal with the ray length, the vector. We add that to the from vector. So we are essentially doing this. We are calculating an origin point, endpoint. We are adding this vector to this coordinate. So we essentially get the whole deal here. From this point to this. This still doesn't give us coordinates. Well, it does. When we look at the two, let's try this. Because this doesn't use that Z depth thing, which is using. Don't really know, like, when it's 5 or 10, what does it mean? Is it 5 meters, 5 units, 5 tons of gold, whatever? When there's no unit, it doesn't make sense. Event position, camera, complaint, sky. Ray length. I think this ray length is kind of the, yeah, 1000 again. Quite know, but I guess it's how deep you want to go. It's output from and to. The so base of the tree. Just checking my values here. Paper. So the first one was from. Let's run the game and pause. So it's -7-ish in. This 2 value is too high. 100. It's the same problem again. So that is as if I'm using Z depth. Now I'm actually some other arbitrary location. And I think the difference between 100 and 1000 was just all the values were 10 times or not. It's like 400, I have 42. If I make it 10, it is going to be 4.2, 4.3. Want. Okay, read more. This is Eureka. Are still looking. Getting a 3D object's position. I believe this way to do it just doesn't make sense in the coordinate system. So we are trying to do the opposite of project position. That's what we little success essentially game. So then you use those coordinates to recast get world, get space. Base state separate. Let's keep for just no reason, but this mouse position we are already satisfying that. I will actually double check that too. I think last night we were printing out the event.position, which looked okay. I think you do this case because if stuff is tucked in a viewport that way, I think event position was giving you relative position. In this case, everything is already, there is no nested behavior going on. I believe we are getting the right. This might be the correct way of doing it, but I believe sanity, it's actually, we have the camera. That's all good. So we've already done this. Certainly. Face is. So I actually see. Because I remember get world function. I don't remember. It's not bringing that. Global goal. It's not space state here. Didn't give an error, so that method didn't work. So here we have an empty result because I think I'm not hitting any object. Go into the tree area here. Is the static body. I think in the trees static body area. Here's some positioning. That looks somewhat correct. So let's stop the game after there's so interestingly enough here I'm getting correct values. I'm trying to get to the bottom of the tree to read the value 0 0. Collider. I'm gonna look in this tree model. Doesn't have a static body, but something here there is the wheelbarrow. Nigel is saying, not 100% sure, but I think I have to apply the from and to on the raycast. Check where the raycast applies. Yeah, I think this is the function just from forum post, and that's what these values are. Which then makes me think that I already have to be assigning collider. This might be a dumb question from a technical point of view. So essentially what you are suggesting and what the documentation says is that in order to have correct values showing up, the ray casting must collide with it. Therefore, you must have collider assigned for that game. My question is, can't you do it without assigning a collider because it's more? But if that's how the whole engine works, then of course we'll have to. I mean, it kind of makes sense because it's looking for something to collide so that it knows it actually hits something versus the objects that don't have a collider, because that would indicate that you just want to pass through. Your ray will pass through, so there's a collision that actually makes. Yeah, it actually makes sense. Collide with something. I guess what I would like to know right now, when it's colliding with something, get a position information, and this is actually almost correct. Um, that 1.44 part is not quite correct. I was expecting that to be point when I'm here. According to our coordinate system, this tree is in x4. So when I'm here, this should be x1. But I'm getting 1.45. But then you are saying in look this up. This returns world. Funny thing is, it's working code wise, but this was not in the IntelliSense. It works. It's not in the reference either. It's base state. And I'm not even sure if this is actually turning a raycast. And then am I actually doing a proper raycast away? Because let's do the raycast. We have a raycast. Raycast set. Similar to the way we are doing state. Cast 2. The area get cool. That's actually a property. Raise destination. So in the methods, yeah, I'm really confused. Shouldn't there be methods in the cast class that actually do the raycasting operation? Something like raycast from this to this, then whatever it collides with, you get the. Or am I just trying to do this the Unity way? That's kind of. And yeah, the collision, so that should kind of answer the question. So we'll have to put collision button. when we did the project so was this always I don't think I think this is need to yeah you need a second arc here treated as it's almost 3.5 years. This is good. I don't think this is possible anymore. Godot 3. They're actually trying to do this Z thing. Yeah, I so this might be a quick to move because essentially when you click a place and you move a character, this for the movement. Yep. So this animation shows the click red dot is okay, more reading. Static body ground. Before I read this, I remember a long while ago was trying to work out the selection mechanics, selecting something and changing the shader outline. I remember having basic colliding logic. Because if I'm going to go the trouble of like finding collision of in colliders head, then the ground object may collide. It's fired even while mouse is over me. So we will do positioning based on object's coordinates instead of reading it from the project the projection from um, I might have tidied up and also be I think it was this. Yes, on red cube entered. Some dummy data. On red cube entered. I still have the because this was there used to be a method here, so let's revive that. was on red cube enter. What I can't remember is actually just mouse or okay, and this is where I was doing the full mouse or left. These are still in here. Okay, good. I actually left it. So let's go into the. I actually have a class here, interactable. Yeah, I was trying to do interactable. I actually did some of the. This I fresh knowledgeable because I was doing some little success. So let's enable this 3D. So this is the model's name is raised bed, but it's essentially a cube mesh with purple material. Is a static body which has a signal, three signals, and it's holding a collision shape. This could probably be organized, but when we run this, and here's our cube. Um, yeah, because you know what? Just table yourself. We just move this a little bit out of the. I don't want anything else to. Where I recall, this was fire. I remember seeing would find a pair. It is likely that when I was streaming some other time, was the end of the day, kind of moved things around, left it that way, and months went by. Now we are looking at something that working once looks useful. It is misplaced most likely because it sounds as if this should be extended by something else because this is directly assigned to static body of this kind of makes it's assigned this way. It actually finds it parent. This is a shader. This set shader somewhere here I have written. Where would I retractable shader? What I remember. Enabled whether it's false or not. It's enabled. Let's Yep, that's the outline. So we are trying to turn this on and off when the player does the mouse entered. Either way, reading that piece of code here from the tutorials, what Nigel was saying, the fact that I actually did something months ago, moving collision shapes and static bodies, it's all coming together. We are in the right sort of area. Yes, right. Let's keep reading this. So on static body input event, you have access to camera, you click position, normal. If the event is a click event, this red dot is probably changed to the click position. Okay, so my first question was this. For this to work and to be assigned to the 3D coordinates to the transform of this marker object, red dot, this should already be calculated. When this is already calculated. That's what this paragraph is saying. Because this object has a collision object, it already calculates its click position. And then all we need to do is just connect signal. We don't do any cast. But if you want to do more things, we are actually passing the camera object itself, because I bet that is the same camera object that calculates the click position. But you may want to do something object, because it's really all there is. There's much more. And as soon as you set the player's new target, same click position. I think this is set as a set get. Yeah, it's or a physics process. When target is a different thing, then actually where does this leave us? So here's the input event. This is what I was reading. This should already have a click. Close the game. Hi. Even if it's empty or wrong, whatever. understand I. I do remember. There was some basic work done. This was actually showing there none of this. I want to at least rule this out. Is this class even running? It is at least running. Let's just output this string itself right there. So why would this not fire? Because the event did. Why would it not? Most likely the collision is the whole box itself. The shape is. I did not alter this in a way that the collisionary is missing the. So technically, this is kind of like how the collision works. This way, whenever the mouse is over it, it should what I'm I, yeah, I was planning to add layers, interactable layer, all that like stuff. I would actually control which object applied different layer. None of this. It's kind of like everything applied in one. Oh shit. Was most likely practicing with CSG mesh instead of having a real mesh instance, and this one's had collision. Close the game. Something else like this. Anyway, we won't use CSG mesh. We could technically use the red box. Here's a cube with a material, pretty much like that CSG mesh, except this is that we just have to assign. Can we actually delete this? Here, this That looks like the collision section. Yeah, the collision doesn't match the sky. Shouldn't this be right over? Because the static body. Okay, so this is now static body. I wonder if that static body was moved for the other CSG mesh when we had collisions. We will see. Still doesn't. Let's keep checking. Seem to have left this project in a very awkward some point. Perhaps it might be better to do something. The basic cube with purple material. Still have that custom shader. Yes. All fine. So we want to see at least this, right? Because this is showing all the events. Cool. And this is that part where it's a collision object and there's a certain way of organizing. However, I remember that this was firing. I remember seeing that. Uh, Something about placing static bodies. Missions. Actually, this is kind of what I remember. That's where the CSG madness being said. There used like there used to be we're under tutorials. Was an report this event for scope I remember seeing mesh instance having static body or the other way. What if I search for static document? Uh, I think I'm reading the wrong document. Latest is at least 3.2, 3.3, 3.1. Maybe that's why the structure. The latest. He's expecting to see. I remember same things. Setting up the nodes. There's a special most basic 3D node. You have the mesh, more mesh, directional. So I remember a structure similar to this, except it is static body. So that would be in the tutorial section. Some rigid body, physics, anything of this. None of this. Okay, I think we are getting this stuff somewhere here. Collision shapes. So I'm not sure if you are still there, Nigel, but do you have experience with 3D work? Um, Maybe I'm missing something very fundamental. But I think this time I'm on the right track. It's talking about the convex, as if there should be something more basic than we're talking about the intricacy shapes. Physics introduction, collision of static body. I think workflow. While the documentation is being rewritten, they actually move some stuff around. I remember seeing screenshot of the nodes, the hierarchy, and showing things inside each other. Seeing that it's kind of a similar thing in static body for moving 3D sprite part. Actually, we can. Because this is going to be there's this. We'll get right that this get reg state was get reg space state. I guess the name is a bit different in the demonstration. Space get reg state. Here it's get reg space. Space is a and in 3D reg space. Okay, this is just a method property. The method returns the same space state. So either way, this is the way to access space. Two-D way, but it's similar. But once we access the space state, very interesting. And this was that prompt to in these two coordinates does recast. The result is a dictionary which objects. And this is where I was getting a somewhat satisfactory. The numbers were skewed a bit, but was almost correct. Then there's the masking. Say, okay, the part we were, which is stuff. Wave screen. Collision object has an input event signal that you know was clicked. But in case there's any desire to do, so this is what I'm trying to fire up. This input events static body for this guy. Static body node input event for the collision of. Let's run this again. something. It should work. I'm gonna add a new mesh just for now. Okay, going to be a sphere. Going to move the sphere up in the hierarchy next to the mesh. Here's the sphere. It is labeled a sphere. It doesn't look like a sphere. Just has an empty. Okay, just empty. So it's in x1, y1, 16. Okay, something like for mesh, give this sphere mesh. Here's the mesh. I think this is have that bucket. This is just a mesh. Nothing is happening. It's highlighted. It's all good. What I would like to do, none of this will matter. Trying to simulate the mouse entered, and assumption is that once this has collision shape, collider, collision shape, such as this still doesn't come with it, with the signal we are seeking, but may define a collision shape. Now, going to tell us that it only serves to provide a shape to a collision object. So where's the collision object? Please only use this as a child of area, static body, rigid body, kinetic body, like etc. to give them a shape. So this must be the child of static body. So that's why I did this. So all we need is a static body. And now this guy is gonna, this soul doesn't have a shape. So what can you do with it? It can't collide. You cannot interact with other objects. Well, you need to have a collision shape because by itself it's shell. So you make this part of the static body. And this guy needs a shape, and that shape may as well be a sphere shape. Kind of fills the whole area. Now, the node here is still not what we seek, but in the static body, now we could. It just happens that I already wrote signal, and that actually is the interactable script, which is here. I don't want to end up rewriting. So here, when we assign the script to this game object, what we are essentially doing here keeping these functions available to code. But if nothing fires them, when we come here, we still have to bind it. That's what. You don't need to control this one. This should work for only the input event sphere. Get it done. Get rid of the HUD. Okay, so the HUD, yeah, I was suspecting the user interface that control the planting equipment was getting in the way, this thing. And yeah, this is actually working on that purple square too, purple cube too, because it actually tried to fire this up. Now it's having hard time finding because I just changing too many things all at the same time. So this interactable thing works. HUD was good. So that was a wasted hour. Lovely. Get rid of the sphere for now. So what is your problem, right? This material next get parent. Get index material. Oh, when I did the sphere, I think maybe no, but then I didn't assign it. Anyway, I think we're on the right track at least. Was entered. Supposed to do this. So it's saying get index material. So here should actually get the we'll have a material property. Material XPath. That XPath will have a shader around. Set it to true. So we know this fired. Problem is so what is your parents? Patients saying but I was able to access material direct. Cube mesh 0. Check now. This is empty. So if this is empty, then why is it empty? You have a material. Here's your mesh. Actually, when we do mesh that get surface material, we are trying to access. When you do just material, is this, then you access this. I used to be able to get parent dot material. This actually has a next path. This is a material, and it has an next path. You could write another material for. So it's like the material has a material slot. You could just keep going down. Next pass has its own next pass. So you could define a different material, different. The fact that this is now okay. I mean, just kind of semantics right now. Instead of having this material assigned here, you just have this assigned here, and then clear this spot. So now this should work. Should not give null. You print mouse enter. Yep. So then you use this. Oh, and then in Exit there's going to be disable that. And here's the on and off for the thing. You click. So this is the click position. That position. Okay, let's pause the game in afternoon. What happened? Pause the game. This is -1 0 0 2 0 0. Here is -3 0 0, but because I'm hitting the corner, the edge of that cube, it's going to be maybe different. And then exactly what happened. This is another thing too. Maybe it wasn't a hot problem because right now it's not working. Exactly why it's not. I paused the game with spacebar, and this object is actually the pause mode is set to inheritance, I bet. So it's actually thinking that all the input is not working. Unpause the game, then it will. Here, uh, right here, the base is going to be. Okay, let's do that. Mesh instance pause mode process. So when it's paused, it's actually gonna keep processing. Oh, this static body is editing, okay. Editing, so if they're in editing, they should actually be processed. Did I not pause the game? Unpause the game. Why is this? Pause mode was but this is the whole idea. When you static body supposed to, okay. Let's go with a somewhat so we have, maybe you know what? So we know the base of this tree is 0, 0, 0. When I come here, object is highlighted. When I'm right here, I'm essentially the intersection of this in the top corner of this. That is kind of this. Well, by logic, that should be the center of this, because the camera view is orthographic, doesn't look. Because if it's like this is 2 units here, 2 units, so 1 unit here and 1 unit here, this is actually the center. Doesn't look. Somewhere here, I am actually supposed to be coordinate -4. Now y is 1. That makes sense because I'm pointing at the top of that. So that's actually y in the 1 in the y direction. It's all going to be those. We can always round those numbers up, and that's 1. X direction is the problem. And also the z direction. What a round number. It's 5. Why? Actually, you know what? I was wrong. X is going this way. This is z. That's fine. That's -5 in z. So at least, yeah, that is. So the fact it's 5 is okay. 5 makes sense too. I understand. I'm actually uh, the whole side section of the fact that I'm seeing this side of the cube, it's like the wall, that building, let's, and it's actually on -5 axis. So there was a field or a plane that is actually cutting at -5, this sort of infinite plane right at -5. That would be the side of this. That's all fine. That actually makes the same way. Uh, this is positive x, I believe, negative x. But if I'm actually going to point at the dark side, this building, it should say -1-ish. Yeah, all -1. So that's making a lot of sense. So if for some reason this game will have a function, you will be able to place trellises and other vertical growing items on the side of your building. This was your house and you want to place something against a wall. You want to know where that wall. Right now, we are seeing -1 as this uh, whole line here. It's all -1 according to this. And here, this side of the wall is going to be. So that is actually making. Well, numbers are most likely correct, but it kind of didn't make any sense to me in terms of practicality. But now I think I'm better able to interpret. The y value there is the height. And when I'm actually here, I'm on top of the building, so it's 1. So when I'm actually going this way, I'm gonna hit 0 at some point because this is actually the middle part. Model is actually going down. This is like 2 units, and because I put it in the put half of it, so the bottom half is actually, it's fine. Where does this leave us? I think this is an interesting place to. Well, I may not stop right now, but I think I've got very good insight here. My objects have collision. Nigel was that my raycast should collide with as the plantation gate. So that way, some of my objects in the game world will have, and some won't. The ones that won't have any won't trigger this, which will mean that, well, by default, you can't actually place anything around them or over them. And the ones that you could interact with, they will have collision. Therefore, they will let the game code know where they are. So that way, we can some preview visualization, some other game logic. So, what is probably more concerning, that's actually where I wasted so much time, is this HUD game world enabled this thing because it's actually covering this whole area. And what did I do with it? When all this is working, this game world is. And I think maybe I should have put that in canvas layer because it's actually covering the. Actually, if I'm going to do that, is this margin container? It is. So you should be the scene root. Should be called hot. So you go back into see these buttons. Flickering here. Button. Yeah. Stuff making less sense by the minute. A little bit to the left of R or M. Works right in the middle. Why? None of the other buttons except these two are player operator. Quick context layer. Really had it from placement of always supposed and yet it's still the hot. This in here. But thought this was supposed to. I think maybe what I should enable those time function time odd player operations way too low. Is preparation. Which is about showing proper one. We were doing it mid, so we but for some reason this is covering the whole screen. Display operations part of HUD. Okay, I think I need to take a decent break. Kind of time when I'm frustrated with a lot of little things that get in the way, clear my head, and most likely there will be later, late afternoons, maybe we'll 10.1. For some reason, I have some other uh, topics. I'll do the streaming too. We will attack this 3D preview logic. It's just that so many little things are getting in. That's the plan for now. So, please see you later.